Hello, Negronis with Nord, episode 44. We have some collaborators here. Sophie, who's joined us many times, who I was saying, I was asking her today if she changed her hair because I was saying you look very rich.
Which is like the best compliment anyone can get.
Starting the year off right. And Dorien, welcome to the show. Dorien is on our campaign team as well, has been with us for
Year and a half.
Welcome. I am going to be totally honest, we're ripping this off a little bit from the All In pod, which is a bunch of rich men. I do have to also make a confession, as the show is called Negronis with Nord. I haven't had a drink in 8 days, and which has been honestly a bit of a nightmare, if I'm going to be totally honest. You know, I'm drying out here, giving it a try, and life is interesting. I've gotten into puzzling, like doing puzzles. I don't know what the verb of like, if you're someone that's really into puzzles, like how are you like a
puzzler?
Yeah, are you a puzzler?
I don't know.
But
I'm shocked. Do you have withdrawals yet?
Excuse me. I'm having like fun withdrawals a little bit. I'll say the first 30 minutes of the day are much better.
Yes.
Certainly. It's been good. I'm not hugely committed to dry January. That's like scary looking at a whole month. But maybe damp. Did y'all have any resolutions?
I wrote these down. I can't think of a single one off the top of my head.
Hard to achieve something that you don't even remember.
Hard start.
Better posture was on there.
Posture.
Yeah.
You're just doing that yourself, or are you gonna get one of those things that you stick on your back that buzzes every time you slouch?
I'm just gonna do it myself. This was also my resolution last year, and obviously it didn't work because here we are.
I have terrible posture. Format is we're gonna go through a few categories. We'll say our best and worst. We'll start with all best, and then we'll go all worst. I guess let's put a little guardrails here. Generally, we are thinking about this in terms of influencers. I think some of it bleeds into like social generally, but obviously there is a focus on influencers, and we're gonna try our best not to turn this into a long ad for and how great we are. So we tried to pick examples that were not just shit that we've worked on, which would be, what are the best? It's our work, obviously, is the best. So we're gonna take ourselves out of the running a little bit. Let's start with best brand moment.
I have to put up there, I think, the Kohl's Cash situation on TikTok.
Okay, that is a client, but
I'm biased. So Kohl's Cash was this like TikTok trend sound that was just going around, making rounds on For You pages, FYPs across the globe. It was essentially like a false commercial that uses like very vulgar language. It was very funny, and a lot of people were kind of using it to like prank their moms or their dads during the holidays, and they're like, oh my God, there's no way. Yeah, I mean, people, got on it, it took off, and Kohl's kind of got in on the conversation right at the right time.
And there's also like, I think a pervading, like if you're like quite online, there's this general joke about Kohl's Cash as like a form of fiat, right? Like as an actual currency, you know? Yeah. Bitcoin's trading at like $500 of Kohl's Cash right now, or something like they're like subbing it in for real money. So like that's kind of like also a like foundational part of, I think, the joke. That
100%. Yeah.
This is a new currency.
Yeah. When all the crypto talk was happening earlier this year, it was like the chronically online girls would be like, okay, we're all in the understanding when a guy is mansplaining you cryptocurrency at the end, just be like, okay, so it's like Kohl's Cash. And that was like my favorite thing to come out of this year.
Again, trying to be unbiased, but giving Kohl's some points for how they handled it once it got so large. I think I've seen a lot of brands do this, and it's either cringy or it's overproduced or it's just like not safe for work and like just weird and uncomfortable. But I think if they waited, they just kind of put a little cherry on top to acknowledge that they've seen it and be a part of the conversation was perfect.
When something is happening with a brand and they're like people are like kind of making fun of it, but kind of like it's becoming a thing, I think brands don't have a sense of humor, and they're like, no, that's not funny. Kohl's Cash is an amazing program, by the way, but like they didn't take it too seriously. They like got the joke. They got that they were in on the joke. The joke wasn't about them. They could like actually be part of that conversation. Yeah.
My favorite moment, I think, happened at the beginning of the year. It was Gucci and Francis Bourgeois, which he had a moment that I think they like very quickly and swiftly emphasized on. Francis Bourgeois, if you're not familiar, is a creator in the UK who is a train fanatic, and he will like talk about trains, watch them go by. He wears like a GoPro on.
He's got he puts the like camera in his mouth.
Yes, and he just loves trains. And so Gucci made this like very nostalgic ad taking place on a train and featured him in it. And I just thought that was an amazing way to create like a beautiful ad, had nostalgia, but also bring someone who's like known as a train fanatic. So everyone was going nuts.
That's great. I love that one.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Mine hurts me a little bit to say because I don't really like the brand very much, is my caveat. But I feel like the Seinfeld Kith like shoot did very well. You know, like it made sense for them as like a New York brand, and obviously, you know, I feel like I think we've talked about a bit on the show before about like, you know, when can you like pull these cultural icons back in? I was surprised how big the conversation around it was. It was kind of hard to ignore. I think we actually did a video. Gio on our staff broke down kind of how this thing works. So I thought that they did a great job with that.
Agree.
Okay, best brand collab. I'll start with this one. I feel like one that was like fun. I don't know that the actual posts were like the best, but maybe similar to like the Train Kid moment was when Green Giant worked with Corn Kid.
I knew you were gonna say this.
You know, and like it was just like that was such a nice positive. You know, we haven't had a lot of just like unbridled positivity on these platforms recently. A lot of it's like snarky or just plain negative. Corn Kid didn't get canceled. Like he's young enough, there's no skeletons in that closet. And I feel like it was something that like for a month or two, everyone could just like kind of enjoy. And it was sweet for Green Giant to like jump in there, do something. Kid made some money off a viral moment, which was nice.
We can hope.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah.
And the guy that does recess therapy seems like such a sweetheart.
I know. I really love recess therapy. The reason I didn't bring up Corn Kid when we were researching this is because I feel like this year has brought to light issues with children being featured in content. And like I was scared for that kid having so many brand deals and like so many things happening to him so quickly where he was like, just got pulled aside for recess therapy and now I'm like an influencer. Yeah. And I worry, I'm like, do they see that money? Like, I hope those kids see the money.
I actually probably like the clams kid even more.
I just saw that.
You know, I mean, fucking clams. I'm a clams guy, you know? Like, anyway, that's mine. What do y'all have?
I had Emma Chamberlain and Aritzia, and also I don't think that this was
You love Emma
personally.
Chamberlain.
I know, but this is the thing. I'm actually not going to go hard on this one. I think this was like the one that came to mind. I don't think there were any that like really knocked it out of the park for influencers. And the reason I didn't love this collaboration was because there were, to my knowledge, no new items that came out of it. They basically took already existing Aritzia merchandise and like photographed Emma in it, and they were teasing it out like we were going to get a whole new collection that was influenced by or designed by Emma. And I was like, I literally saw this stuff on your site 2 months ago, but Gen Z still ate it up. So it worked.
It worked, yeah.
I mean, the audiences overlap really well too. Like, I mean, I think Emma Chamberlain girly and then Aritzia girly are like right there.
And that's what I was like reading about when it was coming out. It was like as brands and influencer alignment totally makes sense. I just hated that there weren't original pieces to it.
I think the nature of the industry that it's not about like this one big moment, but like doing the right things over and over. And what is a great collaboration for one community, people not in that community might look at it and be like, I don't really get this so much. So I think it's like natural that there's less like individual collaborations that jump out as like this was dominant. What are best brands to work with? What do y'all have?
I think you got to take this one.
Okay, well, Fuck You Pay Me did like a wrap up of 2023, the best brands to work with and the worst brands to work with based on the reviews. The two top ones I think that they pulled out were Amazon and Adobe. Vivian has a hot talks that goes in depth about why they were the best brands to work with. I haven't personally worked with them, but the other one I wanted to call out was Nuuly, which again is one of our clients, sorry. But I do think they're one of the best brands to work with. Their team is incredibly personable. They focus on long-term relationships. I think they pick the right influencers. We also work with them on that. But I think personally, from the client side and also from an influencer side, they are the best to work with.
Yeah, I also am going to break my rule and say, I have to say Sephora. You know, I think still getting into Sephora Squad is a life-changing moment. It's something that can really make your career as a creator. I love, you know, the way Sephora has continued to support Squad and grow it while staying true to all of the kind of amazing reasons they started it, and having it be about inclusivity, making sure that as the program got bigger and better funded, they didn't like transfer to like working just with like big super established influencers. They're still out there looking for, you know, micro, mid-tier, and kind of smaller macro influencers. So we got to give it up for Sephora, who continues to crush it. Okay, best brand perception shift. I can start here. I mean, this is, I think, influencers were pivotal in both of these, but there's no, again, single campaign. But I think J. Crew and Abercrombie have both done a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. J. Crew was, you know, I mean, for all intents and purposes, dead. They have seemed to kind of, especially on the men's side, I haven't felt it as much on the women's side, have reconnect a bit with a community that I think 10 years ago they had as a customer, and they have, I think, made really good inroads. They're doing some interesting stuff. They've got the new store on Bowery. I'm seeing more people talking about it on social. And then Abercrombie, you know, I think has been this kind of silent killer, and this, you know, that has been growing and I think getting more cultural relevancy over the years. And I think they could have had a really tough year with that documentary coming out. They got ahead of it. They were like, this is not us. Nobody involved in the company back then still works here. This is a completely different organization. We are horrified and disgusted by what happened here. And I think they've done just an amazing job in shifting who they are from a product standpoint, but certainly more importantly for us is from a marketing standpoint. And I think the influencers have been a big part of that.
Agree on the J. Crew thing. The women's stuff, I do think the men's side was bigger because they had the guy from Noah come in, and then on the women's side they had that, I'm forgetting her last name, Olympia something. Mm-hmm. I do think it's been a huge change. And they also did the J. Crew Collective, where I think they partnered with like cool tastemakers like Harling Ross, mm-hmm. where I wouldn't expect them to be able to like bag her, and I think that was a great strategy. The only one I had was eBay and Love Island. Love Island before used, and this isn't really influencers, but I do feel like anyone who goes on Love Island does end up being an influencer. But Love Island used to partner with, I think it was Pretty Little Thing, which is a fast fashion brand. And then the last 2 years, they've partnered with eBay instead. I'm a huge eBay stan. My skirt and my blazer and my pin are all from eBay. Just saying, if you want to partner with me, my DMs are open. But they did such a good job at marketing to Gen Z, which I think is a site that no one ever looks at. Yeah. Mostly because you never hear about it, but also their interface is like very much geriatric. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved that partnership.
Yeah. What about you, Dorien? You got any?
Yeah, I had Diesel. I think Diesel had a really interesting comeback this year. You know, I always thought of them as like kind of this random like dying denim brand, and then out of nowhere on TikTok, it was just like all the girlies had the bag and they're wearing the shirt with the Diesel. And I mean, I think, yeah, a lot of it was pushed by influencer and celebrity sponsorships. I remember there's a photo of your girl, Dua Lipa. Is that your girl?
I love her.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a photo of Dua Lipa in like a full Diesel look, and I think that kind of started the trend. Mm-hmm. But it's just been really interesting to see them kind of come back and have this moment in 2022.
Agree.
Which is so wild, because when I moved to New York, I mean, Diesel was so dominant. It was just fucking everywhere. Best use of creative freedom. Y'all have some for best use of creative freedom. I didn't come up with any here because I didn't do my homework early enough, but y'all did. So what do you think? Best use of creative freedom. This is a brand that is letting an influencer kind of totally be their authentic self, and do something probably that's like a little uncomfortable for the brand.
Yes.
I think for me, Ollipop takes the cake. If you're not familiar, Ollipop is a probiotic soda. Pretty good. They have like different, cherry cola, Dr. Pepper, so on and so forth. But on TikTok, they've only really focused on TikTok. So they've put all of their like brand spend in TikTok for this year, which is pretty wild. And then out of those partnerships, it's been more of like a product placement situation as opposed to like, this is Ollipop and my stomach feels great and blah, 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 blah. Just really allowing these creators to like create their own organic content and just have Ollipop in the video. I do think that can be a bit of a slippery slope because, let's say there's certain, brand mentions or things you want to talk about the product that kind of get lost in the organic content. But on the other end, you kind of get this, I don't know, feeling of this is the drink of TikTok. I've seen a lot of people talk about how Ollipop, they call it the TikTok soda. Like they don't even really talk about it as a probiotic soda. So it's just been interesting to see how they've incorporated it. There's like a really funny video of this girl who does a really good Kourtney Kardashian impression, and she does this video where she's just talking about Ollipop, and it feels like Kourtney would be someone that would drink Ollipop as well. It's like very much her brand.
Yeah.
So our favorite Kourtney moment is someone pretending to be Kourtney.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
You know, I was going to actually put the Benny drama and Kourtney Kardashian poosh thing, but I realized that was end of 2021. Yeah. So honorable mention, I guess.
What do you have?
My favorite is kind of niche. It's Sylvanian drama and ASOS collab. For any of those who don't know what Sylvanian drama is, it is, I'm pretty sure, a 20-year-old, I think she's from Ireland, who found a case of Sylvanian dolls like in her basement, which are like these little figurines. And she puts together like the most unhinged storylines that are like a minute long. And it's like you either get it or you don't. Like I showed it to Grace and I was like, this is gonna be, you're gonna die. And she was like, what is this? But anyways, they partnered with basically someone who has no face. It's dolls speaking, and let her.
Oh, I thought the person actually didn't have a face. Sorry.
No, we don't know who she is.
Okay.
It's literally just like dolls.
Right.
Like okay.
Okay.
And they let her do, I guess, whatever she wanted, and she put together one of her unhinged storylines where it's like a mouse doll is cheating on this other hamster doll, and it's like, oh my God, is he cheating on me? Blah blah blah. I saw him get this gift and I don't have it, and then she gets the gift and she's like, oh my God, I knew you wouldn't cheat on me. But then the catch was buy one, get one free. He got the same thing and gifted it to both people. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Put this in here.
I know, we're gonna have to get a visual in it because it's so funny. But also, I think Burberry also partnered with Sylvanian drama, which,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Anyways, I loved that.
There we go.
Yeah.
They're having a moment.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? I already gave my favorite kind of breakout creator. The recess therapy stuff, I really just enjoyed, I think, the like positivity of it, and that like it was, I think it gave us a few moments throughout the year that were like nice, and it wasn't like trying to be overly creative. It's just like kids being weird. So that was mine. What do y'all have?
I think we both had Alix Earle. This is us with the agreement of Alix Earle. Yeah, the emoji.
I don't know if she's necessarily like my favorite, but I have to give part of 22 and definitely this beginning part of 2023, Q1 if you want to call it, to Alix Earle. She's just like having this social media moment. For those who don't know, she's this girl on TikTok, I think, right, that's blown up. Yeah. And she just like does her makeup and she's like very personable and it feels like you're just talking to another friend, which I think is, I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge Emma Chamberlain I don't know, stan, so I don't really know a whole ton about her, but I feel like that was kind of how she got big as well, was just being a very personable person on the internet.
Winning the genetic fucking lottery helps.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everyone's like, how did this girl get so big? It's like, let me try and tease this out for you.
Yeah.
Figure it out. It's not hugely surprising, but there's a lot of beautiful people that don't gain tens of millions of followers very quickly.
Yeah, and there's definitely been some argument about Alix Earle and if she like deserves her success, which I think is a valid argument because it's like there are so many wonderful POC Black creators out there that like don't blow up overnight in the way that Alix Earle does, which I definitely think that plays a part of it. But I also think there's something very candid about her where even though she did win the genetic lottery, she has a great pair of boobs that she openly talks about how she paid for them, but also talks about how she's on like Lexapro because she's depressed, and she has terrible cystic acne that she covers with her hair, and now she's on Accutane. Like there are topics that she talks about where I feel like most influencers that are in her realm within TikTok specifically just talk about the highlights of their life and like luxury hauls, and we were talking about that, where she also touches on the shitty things that happen. And she was also pretty candid once she decided to talk about the breakup with her baseball player boyfriend. And I think a huge win for her was when ESPN referred to the boyfriend who was a baseball player as Alix Earle's boyfriend and not as the name of the baseball player.
Quick question for you with Alix Earle. Do you think, so I know that when I first got into it, I heard of her because she was saying, I'm not going to talk about the breakup unless I go on Call Her Daddy. Do you think, because I think that she, as her personal brand, makes so much sense for Call Her Daddy.
Absolutely.
Do you think that was orchestrated, as in like, this is a brand partnership for me that makes sense, or just kind of like she pulled that out of?
I think she did it because she wants to go and Call Her Daddy.
Okay.
I wonder, though, if the girly pop who runs, what is her name? Cooper?
Yeah.
I don't know what her first name is. They kind of feel like the same person in different fonts to me, which makes me wonder if like there's intimidation to have her on. But like that would be such an insane play for Alix to get on there and be able to like reach her audience. So I don't know. I think she should do it.
Let's move on to the fun stuff. Let's sip some tea. Let's shit on some people.
Let's talk some shit.
Gossip. Oh, I'll say this. Something I really missed over break was talking shit, and gossiping, and it's nice to be back in the office.
You stopped over break?
A little bit, I mean, we were focusing on positivity, and my fiance was like, I think I want to stop like bad mouthing people, and I'm like, what? What are we gonna talk about? Like, are you kidding me? Worst brand moment. I am going to kick it off with Balenciaga, generally Q4. I felt like the controversy was bad enough in itself, then blaming it and suing the agency when the entire brand is built on trolling people and pushing the envelope as far as you can, to say that a brand that is 100% driven by creative didn't know what was in its like campaign shoots. I could understand if it was like some little social shoot, but like we have worked with most of the big luxury fashion houses. The head of those houses is literally approving the influencers. Like the chokehold they have on every single piece of creative is wild and is unlike anything else in the industry. And it was in their playbook. Losing Kim is tough for both of them. It's the only thing Kim wears. I don't think she really understands how to wear any other clothes other than Balenciaga. She's literally been wearing that like one dress for a year and a half.
I am so sick of this take. I am so sick
All
of
she
this
wears
take.
is Balenciaga.
Also just didn't like, I mean, I had seen some stuff about the photographer, and it was pretty clear that they brought an idea to him to kind of use his style in this kind of weirdly perverted way. So it's odd to like then
his
try to
photos
back
were
off.
cool. He usually would shoot. He's a National Geographic photographer.
Right.
He'd shoot kids all over the world, and he like really neatly lined up their toys. But it was a good lesson to, I think, creators that you are responsible, even if the brand tells you to do this, like you're still going to be responsible for it potentially. So
I think for me it was Revolve at Coachella doing their Revolve Fest, their Revolve festival that everyone on TikTok started calling Firefest 2.0. This was like created an absolute storm for like 48 hours on TikTok because every influencer, they invite like so many of them. They never pay any of them. They're just like, we'll give you $1,000 of credit and come. And it was just very poorly orchestrated. People were like, I was out in the hot, or in the heat. I was out in the heat. I didn't have food or water. The buses never picked us up. We were stranded in the middle of the desert, blah, blah, blah. But like times 500 influencers that were there. So that was pretty horrible.
that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Worst brand collab. Well, why don't y'all kick it off? What do you have?
I caught some heat on this one last time when I talked about this on Instagram.
Wait, really?
A little bit. I was like, I was fully upstate, like having a good time, relaxing, had half an edible. I go on to the Instagram comments and I'm getting eaten alive. I'm like, oh my God, what do I say?
Instantly bad experience.
Bad trip. But I have to say the Boohoo Kourtney Kardashian collab was just a big flop to me. I think Boohoo, as we know, is a fast fashion brand. They get a lot of, slack for a lot of, what is the word I'm looking for? A lot of flack, thank you. They get a lot of flack for their fast fashion practices. And so it was kind of odd to bring in Kourtney Kardashian as the, green peacemaker of the company. And I mean, I get she has this poosh brand and she, cares a lot about, holistic living and things like that, sure. But it just seemed kind of fake and stamped onto the brand. I think if Boohoo wanted to do something like this, they could have worked with someone that has that, very clear stance on anti-fast fashion. And though it would be kind of odd for that person to do that, it would be interesting to see them kind of push the needle and come together, cross the aisle, work together on something like that. But
big thumbs down.
Yeah, big fat thumbs down. Yeah, there we go.
Agree. I also just want to note that Kourtney Kardashian has always wanted to be like a climate change warrior to the point where in my hometown, I'm from LA, she threatened to never have a salad from Health Nut ever again if they didn't change their packaging to be like sustainable, and now they have sustainable packaging because of Kourtney Kardashian. And then like 2 days later for her to like do this collaboration with Boohoo, which is like such an
Probably just like flying private while like just dumping natural gas out the window,
I can't.
like for no reason.
I actually
just, like,
cannot.
I
Yeah.
will say I went to the show and it was better than I expected. I'll give them that. I was
You went
kind
to
of,
the Boohoo show?
yeah. It was a circus. It was a circus.
Oh my God.
I was like kind of like, do I want to talk about it or am I embarrassed?
Wow, you talked shit about it even when you got invited and went?
Sorry. I'm sorry to the PR person that.
Wow, that's real. Good for you.
Feel free to rehabilitate your image with us. I thought that Mr. Beast's Shopify mountain was so fucking cringeworthy and lame and awful. And I feel like he's usually trying to do like, again, part of his brand is maybe being a bit of a dork and like he's not a cool guy, obviously. But to go to Antarctica, and you know, the whole thing was like, you know, the video is like you go to Antarctica, and if you climb a mountain that's never been climbed, you get to name it. That's like the rule, like generally in the world, like as an explorer, I guess. So they go to this mountain that has never been climbed, and they climb it, and you're like, okay, this is cool. What do you call it? Beast Mountain? Like that's like fun. I'm like into that as a stunt. And you get in the top, and you're like, it's Shopify Mountain, and you're just like, like I. Release me from this world. This is so stupid. So stupid.
Shopify Mountain?
Shopify Mountain, and they like threw the flag on, and I just feel like there was a collective just like, oh God, no. Yeah. This like, you don't need that money, Beast. Like you don't need that money. Like I feel like it was just like a step too far. It was like a late capitalism, you know, you're like, I'm like, again, going and like doing this stunt, and then it's like at the end it's like Shopify. It's like, what does this have to do with Shopify? This is dumb. Yeah. You know. So I thought it got a lot of, you know, I mean, anything you do with Mr. Beast is going to get attention, but it was not his best effort.
That's giving me like Crypto.com Stadium from Staples. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's just like a little random. Yeah. It reminds me of like the Casey ad where Nike gave him a bunch of money and he decided to just spend it traveling around and like wearing Nikes, and like that was kind of interesting, and this was not well done.
Yeah, agree.
Worst brands to work with. We can skip. I mean, I'd say in general, just like, you know, there's still a lot of shitty bad actor brands out there, underpaying influencers, taking advantage of them. This is happening especially on TikTok, where people don't have as much insight into how much money they should be making. Part of the reason we invested in Fuck You Pay Me is they're working to solve this problem, but we'll just generally say bad brands. Worst perception shift. This is a brand who was maybe well regarded at the beginning of the year that has tanked that in some way. What do y'all have?
Do you have one? Should
I have
go?
one.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
I want you to go first.
This is I guess there is an influencer attached to it in a way. Mine would be Tesla. One had a pretty historic fall in like consumer, what's the word I'm looking for? Perception, like from a brand that was very well liked to now not, for some of Elon's, you know, whatever Elon's been doing this year. But I think he has obviously torched that stock and a good portion of his wealth, and his whole kind of like right-wing, I don't know, crusade that he is on right now has done terrible things to the Tesla brand. I think that if you are somebody that doesn't agree with his politics or his worldview, because he's so attached to Tesla and because they don't market and they don't do anything else, he is the brand. It's, you know, it's like $115,000 MAGA hat now. And I think that like progressives will have a hard time buying that car. That is most of the people that are buying that car. So it'll be interesting to see what the long-term effects are there. But I think he shit the bed on that one. Yeah.
And it's poured over to Twitter now too. I feel like Twitter's just kind of like,
My worst one, which I feel like a lot of people argue about, is Glossier partnering with Olivia Rodrigo.
You were very displeased.
I was very displeased. Yeah, I have a whole highlight on my Instagram where I just in real time was reacting to this partnership. But it all kind of started because I think she was on the red carpet for the Grammys. This was before they even announced their partnership together. And I remember posting a photo and it was like, love the Vivienne Westwood dress. Your glam looks like shit. It's not red carpet ready. Like, who did your glam?
Yeah.
And then Glossier is like, we did her glam. And I'm like, okay. And then like a month later, they were like, we are relaunching with Glossier and Olivia Rodrigo. And I was like, okay, first of all, glam looked like shit. That was the first thing that was bad. But also, Glossier has had such a shitstorm of like, they laid off a ton of their staff. They've had like a few scandals with the way that they treat their employees, like the girl boss, white feminism era was like very much, I feel like Glossier was like a pinnacle or like of that. And so I think to them, it makes sense that they tried to save face with partnering with someone with Olivia Rodrigo. I think it was a valiant effort on their part, but I think ultimately Olivia Rodrigo's team did her so dirty by agreeing to this because it just basically stuck her face on a brand that does have such like, I don't know, not great history when she was basically at the height of her career. I think that she should have partnered with someone like Betsy Johnson or Miu Miu or like something that aligns better to her personal style. I was really pissed about this one.
Yeah, and I think it's to kind of ground it, I think, in what we do here every day. Part of the issue was like the product just wasn't there. It just didn't make sense for her. Like I totally understand why Glossier wanted her and would pay for her, right? And they had such a chokehold on millennials, and 6 years ago they didn't have to try. They were so dominant in social media, and they've just they kind of have like blown that lead in a really big way. It's like the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl or whatever, and so they're like, okay, we need to get in with Gen Z, who are their kind of key players, and she is one of them, but the product just like wasn't there. It just didn't really make sense for her, right?
Yeah.
Worst niche or worst creator of 2022, who do you have?
I think we can both shake on this one
Yeah.
too.
Andrew Tate, that's who we put. Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't need a lot of explanation.
I feel like we don't, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go with another shitbag, Logan Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he still like doing things?
He's still doing things, I think. Yeah, I mean, he just had a big, he had a big like crypto scam. He like did a big NFT thing, and it's a whole
He's part of that big lawsuit thing?
crypto zoo. He did a bit of a rug pull on people there. And just generally, I mean, the whole personality and everything about him is distasteful to me. So
Those audiences just come out of nowhere every time. Every time I'm like, where do you exist? But it's, I don't know.
I saw someone wearing Logan Paul merch in East Village like 3 weeks ago, and I was like, what are you doing?
Is it like, are we able to do that ironically yet? Like, is that
I don't
either
know.
that
It's like, why do
person
you
is
have
like
that?
so far ahead of all of us, or is a legitimate fan? If that was you, feel free to come on the show. We'd love to talk to you. Best and worst use of your community. Y'all start.
Okay, best use of customer community. I'm gonna go with LL Bean and the ironic boat and tote collection. Yeah, it's been around for like decades, this bag.
Yeah.
And so LL Bean has the feature where you can customize them because a lot of people would put their initials on them. But this lovely lady, Gracie Wiener, started making ironic boat and totes and like made an account dedicated to it, but she would put words like not designer or Diet Coke or like manic, like things like that on the bag that were not intended for the customization thing. Anyways, this popped off, and now so many people are like ironically stitching their LL Bean boat and totes. And even someone in our office, Chastity, has one that says Girl Boss on it. So they basically made a whole line or like webpage dedicated to ironic boat and tote.
Great.
Where I'm so glad that they acknowledge the person that like had such an up in sales. They do a whole like background on how she bought these boat and totes for a really long time, how she made the TikToks, the Instagram, whatever. And I was like, thank God, because I feel like a lot of the times organic creators don't get credited by the brand when they are responsible for something like that. So I thought that was a really great use of their customer community.
Lovely. And what's the worst?
I didn't have one.
Do you know? Nothing?
I think it's like the ones that don't use it.
A lot of like unforced errors and people like just not doing a lot. Even like brands that have like a rabid fan base, I feel like don't, that are maybe older school. Even think of like a Nike. The customer like still doesn't have a relationship with the brand, They're not a part of that story really still because they're still so like, I think athlete focused. My best, again, this is a brand that I'm not like hugely in support of anymore. Carbone and major food groups generally have done an amazing job like harnessing the like celebrity, the celebrity clientele that were going to Carbone, quite small restaurant in the West Village. They now have, I don't know, like 10 or 15 restaurants across the world that are always packed. I feel like, they have done a good job like taking the influential people that are eating at their restaurants and turning it into like a bit of an empire. We'll see how sustainable it is. I personally think Carbone is turning into like the macaroni grill of our generation, but they've built a big business off of it. Worst is the Republicans. Like get your people, fucking get your people. Like you have unleashed this like force on us that is making all of our lives much worse. So Republicans always have to be on the L list. Really.
I thought you were gonna say James Corden.
James Corden. he also had a tough year.
Best use of customer community, Baltazar.
I loved it. This was fantastic. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
And sharing everything. And we'll make sure to have you all back on soon. As always, ask some questions, send them in, like, subscribe, do all of the things, and we will keep talking about this every week. We'll see you next week. Thank y'all. I was doing some clapping this morning in Soul Cycle.
You went to Soul Cycle?
Yes.
Why? That seems so out of character.
KK likes Soul Cycle, so in the winter when I'm not like bike racing, like I'll go with her once or twice a week instead of sitting in the apartment, riding my bike in the apartment. So yeah, we were at the 7 a.m. this morning. I was, doing all of the tap backs and shit.
2 pound weights.
But having someone like blast kind of cheesy EDM at you at 7 a.m. is like one way to wake up.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.